Round 16 trades. Let's kick it off with some trade talk. So we have not a lot of rounds to go, guys. We're looking at rounds 16 and 17, right? And then we got 10 rounds to go from there. So 12 rounds. And in my side, I think I'm somewhere near the average for trades left. There's 16 trades left for 12 rounds. So I just wanted to preface that one to start this one off, because a lot of people are looking at trades this week. And now that we've got news about Colin Matangi likely to be playing, he participated in the full captain's run. That's very exciting for all of us owners. We weren't selling him anyway, but it's just great to have an awesome number for this week that is a dominant player. You know, I'm sitting there now with an extra potential loop candidate. I would have had to have held Nafahu White this week, but sorry, I would have had to hold. I would have definitely had to hold him, but I would have had to play him straight up. And now I can do some looping in that spot with Nafahu before with Colin Matangi, and then hopefully loop Nafahu White out, which is great. Now, sitting there with Hosking right now as a first game looper. Tarpanay, I could muck around with that one, but I feel like he is likely to be a better scorer than Nafahu, and allows me to loop him anyway with Couchman and also Tavanga as my mid or edge and my mid or hooker looping scenario there. So Hosking in that first game, I can loop with probably Aiken the way things are going right now, especially with them up against Melbourne. So we'll see how that one plays out. And then we've got Fletcher Sharp in there. I can loop him early on with half, but I think it's going to be with Yongi, with them without Moses. Yes, against the Titans, but he could come out and score well, but how well is their team actually going to go without Mitchell on the side and Dylan Brown? So yeah, there's something to think about there, but I think Fletcher Sharp likely just comes straight into wing fullback for Ruben Garrick in my side. And just remember, Legends, you only do get the 4. When I say only, it's a lot, but I saw someone try and do 5 once, so you get 4 auto emergencies. So don't try and loop every single player. If you have all different positions here, you can only do 4 positions or 4 players. So why I'm talking about this trade scenario here is I've got 16 left for 12 rounds. If I was to use 1 or 2 this week, we're down to 14 or 15 and 11, which is only 1 and a bit a week. So if you're sitting any lower than this at 6 or at 5 and you're getting down to, let's just say getting down to 4 this week, leaves you with 12 for 11 weeks, which is almost half the season, which is pretty crazy to think about for you to have not too many trades available. And just think about how many ranks you can make when things get obvious. I was running out of trades at the back end of last year, and I just found it really difficult to get Isaiah Yeo in my side because I would have had to double trade. Now, if I had a few more trades available, I would have been able to make that move, and I would have been able to stay where I was situated in the early 200s ranks. And instead, I blew out in the last 3 weeks there because I was missing him in his 80s and 90s and his great captaincy scores among 1 or 2 other moves that could have been made if I had the few extra trades, rather than having to stick solid and hold with all of the players that I currently had in my side, because I had to. I had really no choice apart from the odd trade here or there that was a straight swap for an injury. So guys like Carrigan, guys like Ponga, if someone was injured or if I was done with their scoring, they started to fall off a cliff a bit, I could move one player straight across, but I couldn't get to that top gun guy. You might be without Cleary, you might be without Haas as well, and you're going to have to spend money to get up to those guys, and you're probably going to have to buy a cheapie on the other side. So this is my wish, my push for you guys to have a look at that trade situation and decide in your head, do you have to make that move this week? There's a few guys that I'd love to move on. They're not performing particularly well, or just not super excited with their scores, but is that worth it? Is that trade worth it enough in my side when all of the replacements are likely not to score as well? A simple one here is Nico Hines, underperforming at the moment, not in a great spot. If you sell him to Jerome Hughes, who's only a little bit cheaper than him, how much benefit do you get from that? That's the thing, one of the things I'm looking at, and the big benefit would be for me, a little bit cheaper, round 18 player, who I would play instead of King Tonga, or I'd loop between him, King Tonga, Hughes, and Savala in that week. So that would be a benefit for that one. Cool. Don't need Hines super long term. We're probably going to eventually want to buy Isaiah Katoa as a clear option that we know will score really well. Now, I can't get to him straight away this week, so and he misses a couple of games, 18 and 21, very similar to that with Herbie Farnworth. So Hines is one of those guys. Hosking's another, 578k. He's easily a guy that you could move around in your squad. I'm personally sitting with 3 guys that are overextended for mid and edge for round 18, so Hosking doesn't actually help me that much there, and he misses round 19 as well, underperforming a little bit. But a 578, yes, I could basically straight swap for Hughes, I believe. Yeah, I'd be 6k spare given I've only got 4,000 in the bank, but that could be a trade I make, which helps as well. But yeah, I'm also looping Hosking this week. I'd be looping Hughes if I did that trade with Hines and Savala, which is fine for sure. Something I couldn't do with Hosking, but I could think about later in the week is seeing how one of those guys goes. No, they all play after, don't they? Hines and Savala all play after Hughesy, so yeah, it doesn't make sense to me, but yeah. So he's another guy on the list. Nafahu White at 578, he's another one on the chopping block. Now, Roosters players for me next week is an issue, given I've got 4. So someone like Nafahu or Siwa Wong, I think, are going to leave my side next week. And I'll start moving towards Karaz and these types of players that I need in centre and wing fullback for round 18. So when I look at that, I'm probably going to need at least 2 trades next week to sort that out, because none of these guys I can get straight, unless there's an injury, none of these guys I can go straight up to Karaz. I could go straight to Drinkwater. Maybe that has to be the play if I don't want to spend too many trades. But let's just say I use that one this week to get Hughes, use the 2 next week, I'm down to 5, or 13 in 10 weeks. And then in round 18, I need to use another couple of trades, right? Gets me down to, 13? Yeah, down to 11 in 9 weeks, right? To get to that full squad in 18. And then I'm almost at 1 a week for the rest of the season, where I'm going to have to make 1 or 2 in round 19. I'm going to have to get Payne Haas back in round 21. I'm going to want guys like Isaiah Katoa. I'm going to need a cash down in there. It quickly adds up, and you're quickly down to 3 or 4 with like 5-6 weeks left, and you're in a bit of a mess. So I think really, really utilize your trades wisely at this point. How much benefit do they actually serve in your side? Hughes, he has like a mid-20s break even. If he had a 0 or 1, then fair enough. He'd go up heaps, but he could easily, throw out a 40 there, and he doesn't go up that much in cash, and then maybe next week is the correct option. And yes, in my side, you'll be thinking, oh, Jamie, you have to make trades to get to that 3 players that you need down in centre and wing fullback. And yes, that's correct. But what happens if this week coming, I lose 2 players to injury and I have to replace them? Well, if I traded other guys to get to those players I need for 18 in this next, let's just say I'd use 1 or 2 this week to get players like that suit me, whether it was a cheapie and Hughes, or I get to next week I'm using a cheapie and Karaz, but then that week I have injuries, but I've already made a couple of trades in this couple of weeks before, and the injuries are to players that I weren't looking at trading out. Well, there's forced trades, and that guy like Hosking or like White or Hines are all scoring still pretty well, and you could easily have them as help in your side. So they're the kind of things that can go wrong that we don't think about. We always think about the upside of trading, Duncan in this week, get someone that's on the rise, that's going to make money, that's going to score well, but he has the same buy schedule as Hosking. Hosking, we know, can score really well. Duncan's a new kid on the rise. He could easily go back to 40s this week, and he's just had 2 great weeks. We don't know. He could go out and continue doing really well, but if it's not a slam dunk pick in your head and you're thinking about it as a 50-50, I would implore you not to do it this week. So there you go. Now in my side, as I said, Duncan is probably off the table given my team's a little bit more top heavy in the mids and the edges for round 18. Someone like Hughes is something that I will definitely think about, but it unfortunately won't be able to come from Hosking. If we get confirmation that Kolomatangi is definitely available this week, then I could go Nafahu White to Hughes before that game. But again, I'd just be looping him in that first game and then deciding on that score or not. And if he gets 40, I'm probably going to take, or 45, I think I'd take over one of these guys, and that's crazy. I have to think between Hines and Savala. But these 2 here, they're easily, a 45 to a 50 guy as well. maybe not Hughes recently, but Savala's crushing it. So there's questions in all of it, and how much importance you put on trades at this point is the most important part, in my opinion. So that's my team. Yongi is one I'm going to be moving on from eventually as well. Cleary you could move on from this week, but again, it has to be, I think, 9, 10, 11, 12 trades remaining. I think if you decide, trading Cleary now, instead of doing 2 trades to get who you want, you just do the single trade to trade Cleary out, then that's a cool way of thinking about it. Just a single trade, 1 trade straight to the gun that you want, whether it's like Isaiah Katoa, if you want Farnworth, whoever else in that top tier type of player could be very helpful for you, knowing that you'll need to use that extra trade. So use 2 if you go up down, so get a cheapie, which adds another dynamic that might not be as good for you, and then go up with the other trade, or just use the 1 now, and then you'd have to use the second one later when you bring Cleary back. That's the thing to think about there. So Aitken's on my potential chopping block, just because I will need to cycle through some mids and edges. Yongi, as I said, Hosking, King Tongi will just stay, and the Fahu White, they're like the 4 or 5. Savala eventually as well, but not in the next few weeks. So that's my team. General thoughts there. Pretty interesting week, more for your strategic thinking rather than for heavy trading, I don't think. I've been reading a fair few people saying that, if Koloamatangi's out, I need a mid or an edge. If he's playing now, then you may not have to trade, and that's going to be the awesome part there. All right, quick one on the private group team. What we're looking at here, it seems like Hosking maybe the trade out. A few people were talking about having Jerome Hughes. I'll have to decide a little bit later on that one, as once we get some more responses through. But currently in this team, it's Fogarty and Latu Fainu are both being looped. In this case, Cleary could go in for Savala if they both went really well, but likely it's just Fogarty, and I would keep it as is with that half slot. For our wing fullback and half, the main missing piece here is Jaden Campbell. So he's someone to have a look at, which I'll hopefully some of the private crew guys check this one out, and they can decide if that's something we want to go for with the 10 trades available, so 2 more than what my team has. And we have Farnworth, which is great. We have Adam Fanul, Blake, May, Tapane, all these type of guns, which is good. And the easiest way this week is to loop with edge and also with half, because I have the have Couchman in that spot there. We'll see how the Hosking one plays out. If Koloamatangi is all good to go, we'll likely move Lucas down into Jackson Purdue's spot. But again, we could also loop in that center play as well. So a few things to play out if we do find out he's all good, but apparently he completed the full captain's run as per normal, which is great news for them. Actually, captain's run today, Friday. Oh yeah, games tonight. They play the last one tomorrow night. That's right. There's 3 games on Saturday. We're back to it. How good. So just the one tonight, guys. 8 p.m. game. Tigers and the Raiders. Make sure you get your captaincy right. Terrell May, it's very hard to go against him. With a 78 average, like anyone could have an absolute blinder and not get to 78, and he does it on average. So pretty crazy. This team here looking good in a way. At 4,000 overall rank, 10 trades available, and if we only use the 1 this week, that could be cool. And we're still in a pretty solid spot for centers and wing fullbacks come round 18. Halves, we've got enough of them, definitely, so we don't need to worry about Hughes. That's the other thing there. It's Savala, Fainu, Fogarty, and King Tonga. So I don't personally love the move of Hughes in this side. When you're looking at those type of guys, you're wanting them to fit your team and your needs for that week. And in this team, we have 4 available halves. So why would we go for a position like that? Do we wait for another spot? Do we get the gun scorer in like a JC this week? Or do we just continue to wait and build for round 18 when the right thing comes around? We'll leave it there, guys. That's the trades for the week. Enjoy your Fridays. Enjoy the sun if you're in Sydney or Central Coast. And have a cracker weekend. And good luck with all your fantasy sides.